Hey, it's 12 noon in the DMV, the DC, Virginia, Maryland area. We are experiencing a snow day. It is a beautiful winter day with snow, ice, all that stuff. So great time to get in it, have some conversation. Hey, Stephanie, how are you? Hey, Walanda. So I just want to thank you all for joining me over here on the Moms Mentoring Circle page. My name is Deborah Porter. We created this page and this platform to help moms at whatever stage of mothering that they are in. We chose the circle because there's no beginning, no definite ending. So wherever you are on your mothering journey, we're here to support you. And we're here to help you. We're here to help you, develop systems and put structure in place in your own life, in your home, for your family, to help you reach the goals that you have as a mother, as a woman, as a wife, and the many different hats that we all wear. All right, so thank you for joining. If you want any more information about the Moms Mentoring Circle, just hit the Contact Us page and we'll get back with you. All right, we're gonna get in it today, y'all, and I need some feedback. I need to know what y'all think about this topic. If you are a parent or have a parent, I'm sure you have an opinion about this topic. Can my children and I be friends? And if so, when? That is the question. So I want to set some ground rules. All right. So as we're talking about the term friend and the term parent, I'm using them in the truest sense of the word. So I'm not talking about friendly activities, friendly behavior, Facebook friends. I'm talking about a friend, the way that we understand it in Webster's, and a parent, the way we understand it in Webster's. So those are the terms that we're going to use that we're talking about this. And really my goal today is just to support you as a mom. I'm willing to use my successes and I'm willing to use my mistakes as well, because I think sometimes we learn more in the mistake than we do when things are always going right. So I'm willing to share any of that to help you to maybe not make some of the mistakes that I made, but then again, to be able to build on maybe some of the successes I've had and those that all of us have had. So please be free and open and willing to share kind of your own story as well. Okay, so we got the ground rules down. So what's the short answer? What's the short answer to, can my kids and I be friends? I think the short answer is yes. I think the short answer is that's what we're aiming for. That's what our goal is as a parent. You don't want to raise a child and then lose contact or feel like you are in the active stage of parenting always. So the short answer is yes. The more important answer, though, is when. And how do we determine when that shift begins to happen and then how that looks? So the way that I see it, there is the active stage of parenting. Then there is the active phase of friendship. So you've got these two different phases of life with your child, and you want to know, when do they merge? When do they meet? So remember in math class, those overlapping circles? You kind of had a circle here, and then in the middle they kind of overlapped. I think my math teacher called it like the crosshatch area. So that's what happens here. The way I see it, that's what happens here. You've got the active phase of parenting, the active phase of friendship. Then you've got that crosshatch in the middle where those circles connect, they overlap. And in that area, that's really the preparation phase. And that's probably one of the most important phases to be able to get to a successful friendship with your adult child or young adult child, because you can't really just go from active parenting to active friendship without there being this overlapping area of preparation and preparing them for adulthood. And the thing about that is you don't want to move too quickly into that phase. You also don't want to move too slowly into that phase. You don't want to hold them up. So some of the things that happen in the active phase of parenting include setting boundaries, parameters, encouragement, support, teaching, caregiving, upbringing, love, discipline, right? Those are some of the many things we do as parents. Some of the things that we're doing in a friendship relationship, there's a state of mutual trust, mutual support, confidant, collaborator, colleague, ally. All of these are words and definitions from Webster's dictionary. So we've got to be careful that those friendship, right, that active phase of friendship is not happening too soon in a child that's too young to be able to understand it. So what happens in that overlapping phase? that crosshatch, right? Where those two circles kind of overlap and you get that overlap and that intersection there. So it's important that in that phase, we're teaching our, at this point, probably young teenager, right? 12-ish, 13-ish. We're allowing them to make age-appropriate decisions on their own. We're watching how they think, how they process information, how they choose friends, how they manage difficult situations, how they are able to advocate for themselves in different situations. Are they truthful? Are they honest? Are they trustworthy? How do they handle the consequences when things don't quite go their way? All of these kinds of things are happening in that overlapping crosshatch area from the active phase of parenting to the active phase of friendship. And so what can happen is, I guess really the question is, when do we begin to move into that phase? I think everybody would agree that, grade school and under, there is an active phase of parenting. We are pretty much in control of when they eat, sleep, where they go, how they get there, what they're involved in. As they enter those teenage years, some of that now is determined by them and should be determined by them. We don't want to hold them back. We don't want to be in that active phase of parenting for too long. So how soon they move into that crosshatch, that overlap area, will depend on your own parenting style, the age of the child, the maturity of the child, right? So if you're more authoritarian or authoritative in your parenting, which I probably leaned more towards that, the danger in that is that you're holding your kid back from entering that crosshatch, that preparation phase to be able to make more decisions for themselves. If you're a more permissive parent, a little bit less engaged and allowing them more freedoms than maybe they're even able to handle at a certain age, they may be rushed into that crosshatch area too young. But I will say this, if they are not moving into that phase where they're able to start making decisions on their own and for themselves that are age appropriate, if they're 13, 14, and they're still not managing some of that stuff on their own, there are a couple things that happen. So at 15 and 9 months, they're gonna want a learner's permit, right? And if you've not been able to trust them on a bike, and if you've not given them the freedom to be able to do that, and to say, let you know, I'm going here, I'll be at so-and-so's house, we'll be doing this. If there's no trust built there, how do you then go from active parenting to literally handing over the keys to a 4,000-pound vehicle for them to drive and go where they please? So it's important that they get that in-between stage, right? You need to be able to trust that they're going to Billy's house. They tell you Billy's mom is going to be there. It's not going to be no shenanigans going on. Suppose you find out they weren't at Billy's house. They were at Johnny's house, where you've already said, I don't want you over there without my permission. I'm not clear on what the expectations are there, what the rules are there, what the boundaries are there. So it's important. Trust is important. Trust is huge, not just in the parent-child relationship, throughout our lives, but in every relationship. Trust is huge. So when trust is compromised, as parents, right, many times we react with fear, right, with what could have happened, or what happened to me in that situation, or the things that could have gone wrong. And so we pull them closer as a result of fear, but fear is not going to be the tool that's going to help them to mature and learn how to make decisions, nor will it be the tool that will help us to reach them. So instead of operating in fear, we've got to talk about it. There's got to be dialogue. There's got to be open conversation about why trust was broken, what happened, what the consequences are for that, and then how to get back and build trust back. That's important. The flip side is also true. If we respond to that with permissiveness and not really being engaged, and kind of letting them go where they want and do what they want before they're able to handle those kinds of decisions, then we can really run into a situation where there is this almost friendship type of relationship. And so we've pushed them into that crosshatch area, that overlapping area of active parenting and active friendship too soon, and they're unable to manage through it because they've not been given the proper tools. So the crosshatch area that I've been talking about, that overlapping area of preparation, is really for both of us. It's for the child to begin to develop and exercise those muscles of independence, of being able to make age-appropriate decisions. It's also for us to then be able to practice the art of letting go, right? And letting our kids kind of make these decisions and letting our kids kind of walk into these decisions and really having to live with the consequences of those decisions. And part of what can be complicated is complicating that is the early onset of the friendship phase, of moving our kids too quickly into the friendship phase. Listen, as a parent, you have to be okay with your kid being mad at you. You've got to be okay with them being mad at you. You've got to be okay with them not agreeing with you. You've got to be okay with them mumbling, "I hate you." And I say mumble because I don't want to hear it. I don't, because words have power. So, I'm sure my kids probably have said, "I hate her," but never in earshot, never when I could hear it, because words have power. And you start putting stuff like that out into the atmosphere. You start saying things like that. You start planting seeds like that, and your relationship can be damaged. So it's important for us to really hold our children accountable for what they're saying and how they're talking, and to be the example of how we're communicating and the words we're using when we're talking. Name calling. You're so stupid. It's not productive. So when we're making decisions, hard decisions that our kids need to follow, if we are in a friendship relationship with them, it complicates it. It complicates it. We don't have to set boundaries for our friends. We're not making decisions our friends are mad at. So it complicates the relationship and your mantle and your office and your responsibility as a parent if we walk in a friendship relationship too soon with our kids. So sometimes I've heard people ask me this: why can't I start out being my kid's friend? Why can't I start there? Because if I start as their friend, doesn't that mean that they're going to talk to me about everything? And that I'll know everything that they're doing. I'll know all that's going on. That's not a guarantee. There's no guarantee that if you start in a friendship relationship with your child that they're going to tell you everything. And requiring your child to be your friend puts them in a situation where they are required to understand and having to navigate adult situations that they are emotionally and mentally not prepared to navigate through. So the thing that does for them is it not only puts a burden on them, but it complicates you walking in the role that you were chosen to walk in, which is a parent. Now, it's one thing to tell your child, we don't have enough money to purchase those $300 or $500 sneakers that you want, however much they are. Stuff is so expensive now. We don't have the money for that right now. It's another thing to tell your child, "I don't even know how we're going to pay rent this month, and you want me to buy them sneakers." Too much. That's too much information for them to have to carry. They shouldn't know that. That's for you to manage. That's for you to work through. That's for you to talk to your friends about. I also feel some type of way of kids that call their parents by their first name. I feel some type of way about that, y'all. Give me some thumbs up or some hearts or something. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know how you feel about that. Talk to me about how you feel about hearing a child call their parent by their first name. Look, if I say the name Barbara, even right now, and my mother is nowhere in this vicinity, I get nervous. My heart rate increases. I wouldn't even think about calling my mother by her first name as a child nor as an adult. And what if you have an issue with someone who is an authority figure in their life and you tell them? What if your kid knows that you have issue with their dad? What if your kid knows that you have issue with their teacher and this is the issue and this is what I'm gonna do about it, or their coach? And I can't believe they say that. Who do they think they are? What do you think that does to your child when they are now sitting in that teacher's class, not wanting to do what's being told them? My mama don't like you, no way. I know my mama don't like you, no way, because my mama told me she don't like you, right? So adult conversations need to be had with adults, not with children. Comments. I'm waiting to see something. I need to hear from y'all. I need to hear or see something. We may be in agreement about only one thing, right? You can tell them, look, me and your teacher may be in agreement about one thing, and that one thing is the educating of you. Your daddy and I are in agreement about at least one thing, and that's the raising of you. That's all they need to know about. That's all they need to know, that there's agreement there. They need to think that you and their teacher are best friends. You and their daddy are best friends as it pertains to the raising of them. Doesn't mean that a side conversation doesn't need to happen with that teacher. Doesn't mean that a side conversation doesn't need to happen with that dad or with that other parent or with that coach. Have that side conversation, but it needs to be a side conversation. That knowing that can impact their behavior positively or negatively. And whatever conversation you need to have, it needs to be outside of their presence, not within earshot of them. Another thing I've heard parents say is, if I start out as friends with them, it'll make the whole process through teenage years easier. That's not a guarantee. That's not a guarantee. Your children will have many different friends. They get one set of parents. So if we abdicate that responsibility and choose to walk as their friends, then who's then holding that responsibility as their parent? Hey, Rochelle. Hey, Sylvia. Y'all tell me what you think about some of this. Hey, Terry. So then as we're moving, so we're still in this crosshatch phase, right? We've still got this active phase of parenting we're working through, working towards this active phase of friendship. But we've got this middle area. These two circles are kind of overlapping in this crosshatch area of preparation. And I think the college students are still within that area. Wanda says, Rhonda is not having that, and neither am I. Yeah, I'm with you, Wanda. That's not happening. It's not happening. But I think our college-age kids are still in this crosshatch area. They're still maturing. They're still growing. They're moving through it, right? Our active stage of parenting is beginning to shift, partly because they're just not in the house every day. We don't have control over that day-to-day stuff, and rightfully we should not. So as they're moving through that, how are they making their decisions? You know, how are they handling being away at college? How are they managing all of the responsibilities that come with being in school? Dialogue and conversation is super important here. Being able to stay connected, being able to be involved, but not overly involved. You know, we've heard about this helicopter parent that people talk about all the time. But you know what? There was a recent study that came out that said helicopter parenting, as it pertains to academics, can be a positive thing. Not every aspect of their lives, but again, you can find a study that can support any position that you have, I'm sure. So some will adjust well to college. Some of our kids are going to adjust well. They're going to handle the freedom well. They're going to handle the responsibility and the weight of it. But some of our kids are struggling. Some are going to leave for college, and it's going to be a real struggle. And they're going to call, and they're going to need your help, and they're going to want you to step in a more active phase than is healthy. Hey, Melanie. I've had friends, y'all, that have actually done their children's papers for them in college. I've had parents that have completed assignments for students. I've had parents to call and wake their kids up every morning for class. This is in college, I'm talking about, in college. So there's a lot of problems with that. There's a lot of issues with that. Well, and it probably goes back to high school. I would imagine if you're writing papers for your freshman in college, you were writing papers for your high school student as well. We've got to become the advisor, the mentor. We've got to push them to the resources that are available to them. Look, I never stayed up till 3 a.m. doing a science project. I've never done it. Not for my kid. Every grade they've gotten, they've earned it, good or bad. So it's important to push them to the resources that are available. If you've got college students that are struggling, there are all kinds of resources available to them on campus. We've got to push them in that area. Now, there's nothing wrong with helping them formulate a plan. There's nothing wrong with helping them put things in place. There's nothing wrong with helping them formulate a system. But we cannot step in and take over those assignments and those responsibilities that belong to them. So as we're moving into this, right, this mentor, this advisor phase, the conversations have to change. I can't tell you how many times I had to delete comments that I was, texting, text messages that I was sending to my kids. You need to make sure you delete. How about, have you thought about, did you consider, I'm sure you've already thought about this, the whole dynamic has to change. So here again, that crosshatch area, that circle of active parenting and that active friendship, that middle area where they overlap, that's for both of us. And so as things really begin to progress, and as our kids really begin to find their way, here's the hope. The hope is that they're going to begin calling us and asking us for advice. Hey, Jeannie. Hey, Rochelle. That's the hope. The hope is that, they will begin to reach out for us and really see us as their mentor, as their number one advisor, as someone who has their back and will be there for them no matter what. But the other thing that we really have to consider and understand too is that everything doesn't always wrap up with a pretty bow. Some of our kids struggle. Some of our kids really struggle in that phase of maturing and growing up. And we've got to be there. And, I'm a woman of prayer. I believe in prayer. And so I would say that is something that's clearly very important, very necessary. So as they're struggling and finding their way and pushing their way, you have to meet them with love. Sometimes you have to meet them with an apology. There are times that we say and do things that we didn't mean to say, or they received it in a way we didn't intend. So leading with love and being willing to apologize are super important. I grew up in the generation where adults didn't apologize to children. Wasn't necessary, didn't think about it. And it's just what it was. Children did not require an apology. But let me just say this. If you've been a parent for 5 minutes or 15 years, you know that there are mistakes. Mistakes are made. You don't lose any respect by saying, I'm sorry. So if there's a need to apologize, absolutely step to your child and be willing to apologize. And along with praying for your child, being available, letting them know that you're there, letting them know you're willing to talk, letting them know that there's nothing off the table. But here's what I'm really trying to get at. We absolutely can be friends with our child. The goal here is that we are working ourselves out of a job. That person at work who should retire and won't retire, and everybody's waiting for them to retire because they're past their time. We don't want to be that parent. We want to work ourselves out of a job. We want to put ourselves and our kids in a position to thrive, to be able to be successful where they are. So the short answer is, can we be friends with our kids? Absolutely. That's the goal. The goal is friendship with our adult children. Can we be friends with them while they're children? I wouldn't advise it. I don't think it will end successfully. Should we hold our kids back too long and wait to be friends with them once they're 30, 35, 40? I wouldn't advise it. Active parenting does not continue into those adult years. So that is the topic for today. That's the subject for the day. If you have any questions or any comments or any situations you want to share with us that others can benefit from, I will be sure to check back in these comments as the day goes on. Enjoy your snow day. If there's anything that the Moms Mentoring Circle can do to help you or assist you on your journey of mothering, please reach out to us and we will definitely respond back. Have a great day. Love you all.